Okay, I have so many questions about Jack Smith's request for a gag order against Donald Trump in the election interference case. What are the odds the judge agrees to it? If she does, how will it be enforced? If Trump defies it, what happens to him? Is jail actually on the table? I can't think of two better people to discuss all of the implications than my next guest. You know them well. Andrew Weissmann is the former general counsel for the FBI. Neal Katyal is the former acting U.S. Solicitor General, and the law firm joins me now. Okay, we have so much to get to, but Neal, I just want to start with this gag order request, because I think all of us lay people are wondering, what's the judge going to do and what are the consequences? So what factors is she looking at?
So the prosecutor, Jack Smith, is saying to the court, look, this defendant, Donald Trump, is running his mouth in really dangerous ways, prejudicing the jury pool, prejudicing witnesses, and the like. And so Jack Smith has filed this piece of paper saying, hey, stop him from doing this. And it goes back to a 1976 Supreme Court case called Nebraska Press Association versus Stewart. And basically the question is Jack Smith's limited request here limited enough to gag Donald Trump? And I suspect the answer is yes, that he will prevail in this in some limited way. And that's because Jack Smith wrote a very narrow, restrained document, one that just said, look, if he's going to be attacking witnesses or attacking court personnel, that goes too far. I think the next step is for the judge to have a hearing where Donald Trump sits in that courtroom, looks at her in the eye, and explains himself. And then from there, some sort of tailored remedy, including possibly moving the trial date up.
Wow. OK, so, Andrew, I mean, he has until, I believe, next Friday, if I'm remembering correctly, to respond, or his team does. What are the consequences? I mean, Donald Trump does not change his behavior easily. Is jail an option here if he violates it?
Jail is an option, but I don't think that would be the first thing that, or even the second thing that the judge would do. I think as Neal alluded to, Judge Chutkan has already said that if you continue to engage in this kind of behavior, not just prejudicing the jury, but inflaming the public in ways that could lead to violence, that she could move the trial up. She also could fine the defendant. She could also impose restrictions that are overseen by his own counsel before he engages, for instance, in Truth Social posts. Now, there are a variety of options. I should make sure people know this is a standard thing in high-profile matters. Entering these orders, we had them routinely in Special Counsel Mueller's cases, and it's because you want to make sure that the jury is deciding the facts based on what happens in court. And you notice the asymmetry in terms of what's going on, where you don't hear a peep from the government, but you do hear sort of ad nauseum from the defendant.
So this is so fascinating. It'll be interesting to watch. I wanted to ask you about an exchange that Kristen Welker, the new moderator of Meet the Press, had with Trump that stuck out to me. So let's play that, and then we're going to talk about it on the other side.
So you called some of your outside lawyers. You said they had crazy theories. Why were you listening to them? Were you listening to them because they were telling you what you wanted to hear?
You know who I listened to myself? I saw what happened. I watched that election, and I thought the election was over at 10 o'clock in the evening.
So this is interesting because they've been using this advice of counsel argument. So what did you think about that exchange, Neal?
So Jen, any critic of Kristen Welker, Meet the Press, who's like, oh, she's not making news, she just made huge news this morning, because Donald Trump's defense to January 6th has been one basic thing, which is, I relied on the advice of my lawyers. I didn't have bad criminal intent. It's my lawyers who were telling me to do this. And she got him, through masterful interviewing and playing to his ego, to be like, oh, no, I did it all myself. Yeah. And if you're Jack Smith this morning, you're going, thank you. That's what I always thought. And yes, you hired these kind of cockamamie crazy lawyers. But at the end of the day, this was you through and through. This demonstrates his, culpability right there and then, and I think makes this case that Judge Chutkan has going to trial on March 4th a lot easier.
So, Andrew, if you're Jack Smith's team, what are you doing? Is that footage going to be played in the courtroom, do you think?
It could be. Just to add to Neal's excellent point, the other thing that Kristen Welker got the president to say was essentially a part of this scheme, a part of the obstruction, a part of the 241 civil rights scheme, which is the Stop of the electoral count. If you'll remember, everyone thought there'd be a red mirage, that the night of the election, Trump would be ahead because the mail-in votes had not been counted. And sure enough, Trump had said, stop counting. Well, that's a crime. He was saying at the time, and he just said it on air to NBC, stop counting the votes. Well, that's not allowed. That is part of the scheme here. So there's sort of a twofer here. One, as Neil said, not relying on counsel, and two, saying that he wanted to stop the votes of American citizens.
So before I let you go, I wanted to ask you, the other piece of news this week was about Hunter Biden's federal indictment. I know Andrew has said he's never seen this sorts of federal gun charges in his 21 years as a prosecutor. But what did you make of them, and do you think more is coming?
So first of all, I've never seen Republicans so excited about enforcing gun control laws in my life.
There's that.
But I think Andrew's been absolutely right. These aren't cases that go to criminal prosecution with jail time normally, and that's, of course, what the deal was before between Hunter Biden and and the prosecutor, and somehow that fell apart. And that prosecutor's not explained why he's now turning around. A month ago, no jail time was totally cool with him. Now, all of a sudden, very same crimes, he now wants it. And maybe there's an explanation. I think, let's let that play out and so on. But right now, I'm left more confused and perplexed than anything.
Neil Katyal, Andrew Weissmann, thank you both as always.